I didn't do anything to get set up.
It says it's trying to go live.
It's just got it. Streaming
No.
now.
We're not allowed in.
Streaming
Ooh,
now.
banned from the Matrix.
Glitching. I think I
Error.
got to make sure I got
Error.
put on mute.
Yep. Just
Says
got
we're live.
notification.
We live. Pop out that chizat. Got it.
Let's go hit that thumbs up.
Got it. What up, y'all? Porch Monkey, it's a lie. It's a lie. We back. And where's my other window? Right here. Right here.
Right, meow.
Meow.
Right here. We got a bunch of chatting we're gonna do. And interesting story from Rain Man Ray's Repairs. We're going to talk about a little 6-7 debacle he encountered today, and I want to see if this happened to you, because for whatever reason it has not happened to me. And when he called me, I was, dude, you got me. So kind of interesting. We're gonna
That was the moment that I knew. Like when you were like, oh, I wanted you to go, oh yeah, this sometimes happens, just do this, you'll be all right. And you're like, I don't know, let me know what happens. And I'm going, oh, I'm in trouble.
Never happened to me either.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
Should I tell the story right now?
Yeah, why don't we why don't you go right into it?
Pull
And
up Get
that's
your-
Okay. So
Set the
the neighbor
tone.
guys, oh, right now. No, you go.
No, you first.
All right, I'll go first. All right. So my neighbor's guy's tow truck, it was overdue for service. And when I found out it was overdue for service, I said, look, you need to get that truck serviced right now, do the oil change, do the filters,
ASAP.
do it right now. We don't want your truck blowing up and your only truck being down for X amount of time if something goes wrong. So he pulled it into the shop today. We kind of coordinated it because the truck was on the road. It was out doing roadside service. So it's been on the road for like 2 weeks straight. So right after lunch, the truck pulls in. We're going to do a 2-man team operation and just spill and fill the oil, throw some filters in it, new air filter, both the fuel filters. Now the 6.7, let me back up. It was it's a 2019 F550 with a 6.7 rollback tow truck. Okay.
Oh, okay. Big boy.
So my guy, Troy, if the truck pulls up, he goes under, starts pulling the drain plug out, pulls the filter out. I go up top and I get the first fuel filter. Get done with that, grab the drain pan, I go out back to the fuel tank to get the second fuel filter, which it's a square filter that's kind of embedded in the side of the fuel tank. I think it's a little different. Aaron, is it different, that particular filter style, from like the regular F350s and 250s?
No, if it was a 17 or up, it would have that style filter.
They're all still the square ones. Okay.
Yep.
So 8mm bolts. I go to pull this cartridge down because the filter's got a cap on it. It's just a big square, filtration unit, and the cap comes down. And this was where I should have known something was wrong, but it didn't occur to me until later on. Again, because I'm trying to just get this truck serviced and get it back out on the road, because the driver is just hanging out waiting for me to get this thing up to par so he can go back out. And I take the cap down, I pull that aside, I go to clean it out, change the gasket on it. I go back under with the creeper and the drain pan, and I try to pull the actual filter element out of the housing. It won't come out.
Damn.
I'm like, okay, well, whatever, get a screwdriver and just pop it out real quick. Get a screwdriver and it won't come out. Start tugging on it. I'm rocking it around. It's loose in there, but it won't come out. Like I'm
Now you're
rocking it.
trapped between the fuel tank and like the rear diff cover, right? Because it's the aft axle
like
tank.
Drive shaft's right here behind me. I'm on a creeper on the ground.
Yep.
I've got the drain pan right here, and it's still dripping fuel down. So I don't have really any space unless I want to get covered with diesel, which I don't. And I can't get this thing out. So I go, okay, let me get a kind of a bigger screwdriver or maybe an angled pry bar. I can kind of get behind it and just pull straight down wherever the resistance is at. And start prying on it. I'm going, I'm going to break the case. If I push any harder, I'm going to break the housing for this filter. And then we're kind of screwed because I've got a tow truck driver waiting we're like standing here waiting for this thing to get serviced, and I can't get the filter out of it. What do I do? I'm like, I'm starting to sweat because I know that if I break anything, truck's out of service because
Dun,
we're
dun.
not getting fuel filter parts from Ford, you know, at 3:30,
Lickety
3
split.
o'clock in the afternoon. Yeah, that's going to be a couple days. So I'm starting to sweat here because I know this thing doesn't have to be this hard. So I go, all right, what do I do? Let me check all data real quick. And I pulled up service data, and it just says, pull the filter out, put a new one in. That's it. That's what, there's nothing there about the thing getting hung up. No bulletins, nothing like that. So I'm like, all right, A-Rod knows. Every day he's got these things. So I call him up, and dude, I heard it too. You're like on the phone with somebody and you're like, hey, hang on a second. And I hear you on the phone finishing what you're doing. I guess you're talking to parts or something like that. I don't even know. But you were clearly busy. And I'm like, all right. So I'm waiting there and I'm just listening to him just like slay it through his day. I'm going, oh, cool. He knows what he's doing. And I'm like dying right now. So basically what I'm saying is, Aaron, thank you, because you being in work mode, having an okay time kind of pulled me out of that funk I was in, you know, because I'm really starting to stress. And I go, it is what it is. We'll figure it out. So he gets on the phone with me. And I'm like, hey man, I got a 550. I've got the square fuel filter in the back, and I said it won't come out. And he said, you said something about the bolts, and I was like, yeah, the cover came off, no problem, but the filter won't come out. Like, does this happen? What do I do? And Aaron's pretty much just like, I don't know. You take it out. Like there's nothing. It doesn't get hung up. It doesn't get stuck. Never heard of it before, but let me know. Let me know what it was when you figure it out. I'm going, and I hang up and I'm going, all right, well, that didn't help, but it comes out. Like that's all that it does is it comes out. So I went and grabbed my big, super jagged, like snap-on pliers of death. And I got those things in there. And I'm
something you shouldn't be pulling a fuel filter out.
Yeah, not a tool for a fuel filter. And I mean, I got this thing and I'm on my creeper. So I'm rolling around on the ground and I'm just sort of hanging off of it. And it just pops, comes right out. No problem. And I looked around and I'm like, okay. And it just looked like a fuel filter. There was nothing broken on the thing. There was no marks on it. Like it's, nothing there. And I look up in the housing, nothing there. I have no idea why the easiest thing, it was like needing to pull an air filter out with a pry bar. Things that don't happen. And it happened today.
After we were during our pregame, we were talking about this whole episode, and everyone who has the Illumidoo is changing their fuel filters knows that the fuel filter, Ray now knows that it clips in with 2 little feet into the housing cover, and then you put the cover and the fuel filter all up into the housing that's on the fuel tank. So we were talking and he said that the housing cover just came off, and it's not supposed to do that. The filter would have just came down. So I don't know if somebody before him just put the filter up there and then put the cover on and didn't realize or whatever, but
That's what I think.
it must have been wedged up in there.
think
Jammed
that's
it in there.
they shoved the filter up in there, and then they got the cap lined up, and they used the 8mm bolts to pull it in enough to stop it from leaking, and it
Mhm.
went past the seal and got into the plastic body of it, and that's why it was so hard to pull it down. They're lucky they didn't break that mounting area up there at the top of that housing.
Do you guys think that we should order another housing and just change the whole assembly?
You can. It'll come with a filter,
Mhm.
a housing cap.
Well, I mean,
There's
considering
if you
this
got a
one's been
crack-
stressed out and flexed and the bolts have been used to kind of press this thing in, I mean, there's some fatigue somewhere in this system. Do you think maybe I should tell the guy to go ahead and just buy the whole thing?
I
No,
would.
Yeah.
I think if you had a crack, you'd know.
It's not necessarily just
not
that,
bad.
but it's what would happen in the future in case if this guy's out on the road or something like that in the middle of nowhere, and then something
Right.
does develop, or it's just it was obviously installed incorrectly, and I think for safety reasons, Ray should do where his train of thought is going. Should replace that assembly.
You know what you probably could do is go underneath. I guess you don't wanna, I guess you could run it, but whatever. If you put the rollback body all the way back and angle it up like you're gonna put a car on it, you probably get away with not dropping the tank to get access to those lines on top, because there's like
Yeah.
4 lines that you're gonna have to unhook
Mhm.
and twist and work a little, you know, plastic collar that's got to slide like out of the connector. So you're gonna be kind of struggling it, but if you can roll the deck up or out of your way, you might be able to fiddle mess with those and then go underneath, take the Torx out and then slide that whole housing, you know, out of your
Cool.
way.
Little easier on a rollback.
Yeah.
So,
Same thing with the landscape trucks with the dump beds. You just
oh yeah,
open the bed up and everything is right there.
those were the best ones. I guess it doesn't matter for the Illuma now, but the steel bodies, when we'd have def repairs, boom, pop that bed up, do the
Right there.
inboard, outboard tank, you know, no big deal. Speaking of which, we have a case of Illuma right across the way over here on Marcia Brady's top corner. Well, at least on my screen. Bearded Fortec. I get a call from him, actually a voice call, and unbeknownst to me, he's like, yo, I just put this trans in.
Well, first of all, I'm making sure I wasn't losing my mind.
Yeah. He was just like wanted reconfirmation. He's like, I put this trans in. It was more or less the truck got dropped off, or the ambulance, and this needed to be done. So he puts the trans in, checks the fluid,
Program it.
programs everything, and it's like, why doesn't this thing move? The drive shaft's spinning, but the rear wheels isn't moving.
I was
Mhm.
like,
What?
say right.
Wait, tell me this again. You said the drive shaft is spinning, but the rear wheels are not. Dude, did the tow truck driver like not put the axle shaft in or something?
Oh,
Dude,
they were in.
do we even know what happened? Why that happened?
Yes. I found
Oh.
out.
Tell me why. That's news to me now.
So to finish what you were saying, hey Aaron, I found out what's wrong. I want to see the look on your face. Here I am holding an axle cap in my hand. The axle's broken.
Oof.
The look on his face was like literally
Oof.
dumbfounded. So yeah, they did not have it in neutral, and they did not take the drive shaft out, and they just pushed it up on the lift.
What?
Yeah.
So straight tow company.
Broke the axle.
Well, note to
But
self.
it's fine now. Axle's in. I drove it around today.
That's a hell of a parking pole.
I wonder if it's a tow truck thing, because I've seen tow truck guys demolish turbos left and right. Like one guy, he blew up 2 turbos in 18 months.
What?
On a
Come on.
On a 6.7, yep. And then another guy, he blew up one engine, and then I think one of his other engines went down because the ball on the end of one of the push rods, I guess they're pressed in or something like that. I guess it came apart, and the push rod broke, right there at the ball where it meets the rocker. And then the push rod destroyed the rocker until it had a misfire. But I've seen another guy, he destroyed a wheel bearing. Right rear wheel bearing just went out of nowhere. Like I've seen some guys with tow trucks annihilate them. So I guess my question is it a tow truck thing?
I think so.
Or is it just how those platforms are operated? Because I mean, we don't see it. I've never noticed it in like a box truck or.
I have let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 municipalities that bring me all their ambulances and rescue units. I've gotten each of these departments on a 200-hour oil change interval and fuel filters every other oil change. And it has been going on. Just did an oil change yesterday for one of them. And I said to come in at 4,000 hours, and they brought it to me at 39.98. And I'm like, whoa, dude, they came in before. It was perfect. And they were doing a regen outside before I did the oil change because it was loaded up when I got here. So I think a lot of it, these guys will be like, oh, it's a rocket tire, I'll have to change the oil. And that's not, no. Like, you're idling up. It's idling at 1,500 RPM using this PTO. Working, you got the AC blasting, and then you're gonna turn the PTO off, put the bed down, or vice versa, and then go hammer down with another 6,000 pounds on the bed and expect it to get you there in 15 minutes or less. Well, you can't go through that operation and not change the oil. And what touches oil? The turbocharger. He just says that this dude, hello, Dave P. In 18 months, 2 turbos. I mean, come on. That's obviously not right. I've seen bad turbos, but I mean, that seems a little excessive. So then we start asking for oil change receipts. Ford Boss knows if you get a warranty repair and they want to see oil change receipts and stuff for ESP. It's that whole nonsense, but it's
I mean, I had one that came through with 5 engines in 2 years. He was running this thing 24/7 as a pumping unit and doing oil changes at the recommended mileage instead of hours. There was 5 inches of sludge underneath the turbocharger.
Brutal.
I said, this is your last engine. If you don't follow the 200 hours, we're done. You're not getting another warranty engine.
I've been finding that since going to the 7.3, you can idle the gas engine a lot more. When you try to idle a 6.7, that freaking oil life monitor pops up so quick. It comes up like, I've had it come up with like 1,400 miles of the oil on the oil. It's telling me to change it.
I can believe that with a lot of excessive idling. Yeah. Do you have high idle on it? Can you just idle it up if you're hanging out for a while, just kind of park?
Yeah. Yeah.
Do it.
could.
I did have.
Could.
Can you put it on a switch?
Yeah, you put it on a switch and you hit the brake a little and
Yep.
it kicks idle. I did that.
Do
Cody's
it.
recommendation, anytime you're idling, he says turn on the high idle. So that's what I do.
It works.
I
Falling
found
asleep,
that
Rich?
Huh?
You falling asleep?
No, I'm just listening.
No, Rich, just rest your eyes. It's okay.
I'm not gonna sleep with DS. No, that's what I preach a lot on the channel. And a lot of people from like different industries now come to me because I'm always talking about oil all the time and maintenance all the time. And it's like the number one failure that I see, even now in the independent shop, the number one failure that I see with all the different vehicles. I mean, I service everything now. And it's people just do not maintain their vehicles. They don't do it. And they don't understand the importance of it. And then when I'm done with them, feels like a dad having a conversation with their children, reprimanding them about something. And it's really not that. It's just, I'm trying to teach them something that they either don't care or that nobody's ever just taken the time to do it. And most of the time they don't care because it's not their vehicle.
True. Wait, who was I just talking to that day?
Or they just don't care at all.
Yeah, it's not my truck. Not my truck.
Yeah.
Make sure both.
One of the big controversies that we've always talked about on this channel is the oil life monitor. For me, I don't know what's different for some of these other people with these other types of trucks. Maybe the cab and chassis are different, have a different program, but it's always just been fine for me just to use the monitor. and it would shorten me on miles if I'm idling.
Hey, hey.
Ho, ho, ho,
I think they go by hours though, don't they, Aaron?
on.
On the 6.7?
It goes,
Doesn't-
well, I don't know. Is there a way to pull it up?
It doesn't, I don't think the oil life monitor goes by miles on the 6.7.
It goes-
by,
It goes by
Mile-
everything.
Yeah,
It
it goes by
literally
everything.
takes everything in and it's just a calculation like, hey,
Yeah.
do it now.
Mhm.
It's like I looked into this and it was like the number of cold starts, the number of the vehicle is smart enough to know the amount of times that you've put it under like like extreme load. It knows the amount of hours, like engine hours. It takes into consideration the mileage. There's so many things that play into it. There's like a whole laundry list. And just for instance, the town car and the Grand Marquis were both parked for like 3 or 4 months. And I had only put about 1,000 miles on the oil between both vehicles before I parked them. When I went and picked them up at the dealership, both oil life monitors in 3.5, 4 months are already on with 1,000 miles on the oil because it knows, the vehicle knows the amount of time that has been in between when I initially put the oil in and reset everything to now when I went back and picked it up and I'm driving it, because it's counted down the amount of time, even date wise, that oil has been in there. And both the vehicles now with 1,000 miles on the oil, both tell me, hey, it's time to change the oil now. And it seemed like the older system was a little bit more sensitive, which I like, compared to the newer systems, because right at about 5,000 miles, the oil light's always going off in the older ones. Now in the newer ones, they're programmed differently because they can run longer, but I still tell people all the time, it's either 200 engine hours on the Super Duties and stuff like that, or 5,000 miles, whatever comes first. But preferably, if you're going to work this thing, 200 engine hours is when I like to see it, between 175 and 200 hours, which typically equates to a good service interval, a good OCI. But the old systems would pop on even sooner, and I like that. It would go even by date, the amount of time that oil has been in the vehicle.
I wonder, we had, excuse me, we had talked about this way long ago, DS. We were talking about oil, and it's on the tip of my tongue. Doing the oil change by the oil life monitor, not doing it by the monitor, and what was the one thing that you said? I can't. I'm on the spot. I can't remember it.
That who said-
That you said that when we were talking about a Ford boss, had almost said it. You know, it equates to, 200 engine hours, or
It kind of
um,
does come close to 200. Whenever I did my notes and stuff with my oil, when I had the diesel, at least, it was always pretty close to 200 hours, or the miles. I'd be lucky to get 5,000. A lot. Sometimes I got 3,400. One time I got like 2,000.
I remember
So-
you saying that, yeah.
I was never a 10,000 mile based on my oil life. It never let me get to 10,000. But that being said, could someone else get to 10,000?
Sure.
Well, yeah. I mean, I wear tires out on my trucks. I mean, I wear the tires bald in 20,000 miles, whereas another guy might get 20,000 miles. His tires still look new. So I think no two vehicles have the same type of usage and the same. Every mile is going to be different based on what you're doing. If you're going to drive a truck with the wind to your back, riding off into the sunset on a straight road with no curves, then maybe you can get to that 10,000 versus a guy who's freaking dragging 1,000 pounds on the ground in the parking lot doing stop and go.
Yeah.
So
Highway miles isn't really bad on engine oil. It's the stop and go city traffic.
It
And
depends
then-
on how you drive on the highway.
Well, true.
It's the
And then
city
you got your climate has a lot to do with it as well.
It's the
Well, your
city
vehicle-
traffic, climate, and the amount of cold start, like a lot of not cold start, but the amount of times people short trip the vehicle. I noticed that a lot of city people that go, they'll start the vehicle up and they'll go 10 minutes down the road and they'll shut it off, and they do the same thing over and over and over again, and that engine never really gets completely warm.
Fuel diluted.
It is terrible on that. So people then get confused and they're like, well, I thought you said don't start the vehicle up and idle it for a long time before you take off. Well, there's a caveat to that. If you can't get the engine up to operating temperature and burn off that moisture and stuff that starts to collect in the valve covers and the oil filter cap and stuff like that, you pull a valve cover off of something that somebody short trips all the time and it never really gets warm. Pull the valve cover off and it looks like milk underneath it. It looks like caramelized milk underneath the valve cover. Because all that,
3.5s, the oil cap.
yeah,
They were bad for that. People that short tripped them.
pull the oil cap, even out my 462 valves, they're really clean, efficient engines. But if I short trip that vehicle enough in like a month's time, I can pull the oil cap off and I can see the white slime starting to build up because I'm not running the vehicle long enough to really get it hot and get that moisture out of there. So there's so many different things that play into this that people are like, oh, well, the dealer says 10,000 miles, or, you know, I've always been told this. I can go this. Stop. Understand how you're operating the vehicle, and then figure out how you should maintain it based on how you're operating it.
Well, when you're driving on a highway, your vehicle's working somewhat hard, but it's accumulating miles really quick.
Yeah.
So relatively speaking, versus how fast can it pick up miles or put miles on the odometer, I mean, it technically probably could go further under the right ideal conditions.
Well, you'd be surprised. Remember when we were reading the criteria for what they consider severe duty versus normal driving, and it was like anything towing with a trailer. What did it say about stoplights? It was I don't think it said city driving. It said specifically something with stoplights and
It pretty much said like stop and go traffic or something.
yeah,
like
like everything that we normally do, like a normal person that would have a Super Duty that's going to be driving around doing that would be considered severe duty. And using severe duty, they're recommending the use of 5W40 full synthetic. So I don't know if guys are doing that, if they
You
don't
idle
even
more
know
than
that.
15 minutes.
Yeah.
I've always
Or yeah,
considered
using
severe
remote
duty.
start. Yeah, it was pretty
I've
wild.
always
Like,
used
dang.
540, but what can you tell us from your experience? Because I know you run the 1030, but you run the really good. What do you run? AMSOIL or
Me?
I'm talking. Talking to Aaron.
You're asking what? No.
Don't you run a 1030 in yours?
Yeah. Yep.
But it's like an AMSOIL or something.
Yeah, I got an AMSOIL full synthetic 10W30. Heavy duty diesel.
540.
I have AMSOIL sent me some 540 and some 0W40.
Is it all the same?
Yeah, I mean, the only difference was the 0W and 5W went to I think the 540 went to 0 and the 0W I think went to like -20. So there was a temperature range. We pulled it up on the podcast that one night, and it showed you know, at this temperature you use 10W30, 0W40 goes to all the temperatures.
Back of the manual, it was in the manual and it gave a temperature range. And it was like,
Yeah.
if you're under like 20 degrees, use the 540. And if you're under like 0 degrees or something, use the 0W. And I think it went all, like you said, -20 or -30 or something like that. It was classified for. The biggest thing that I've noticed testing these diesel oils is just how the different diesel oils are made and what you're using them for. Not every single manufacturer makes the oils the same. The bulk of them all look the same lab analysis wise, but there's a few manufacturers that add some things to it for extra protection that other manufacturers don't use, which is interesting because once you start looking at diesel oil, you're like, wait a second, that one looks the same. That one looks the same. These next 10 look the same. Oh, wait, why did Brad Penn choose to put 150 parts per million moly in theirs, but everybody else didn't? Or why did John Deere 50 do this? Or why did Valvoline Premium Blue add some to it, but none of the other manufacturers did? So it's interesting. It's I think you got to find the flavor you like and what suits. Keep it serviced for the most part, especially with diesel oils, because they're all so similar. And then you just gotta keep it maintained is the biggest thing. And it's like, I don't know, man. I deal with a lot of guys that come to the yard a lot to pick up cars and drop off cars and stuff like that. And these diesel trucks that I see in the city, they are a freaking mess. They're a mess.
You know what? What's your shirt say? Eric, what's your
Oh.
shirt say? My favorite childhood memory is my back not hurt. Oh man, ain't that the truth?
I could agree with that after this weekend.
Man. No, tell your dealership to stop using 15W40. I would not saying it's bad, but I wouldn't
If
ever
he's
put
down here,
1540
he
in there.
needs to be using 1540.
If you're
Shoot.
where Cody's at all the time, it would be fine. But
He's down here
Um,
in Florida. We throw 1540 in everything.
oof.
It turns into liquid piss if you don't.
yeah,
I mean, it's like dumping out this freaking pop can.
So what?
Um,
So
Run the
So-
540.
1540, you're gonna say 1540 over 540?
Florida.
No,
I'll
I
put
run the 540.
I mean, you can run whatever you want. But if you're coming in Bartow Ford and you don't specify, you're getting 1540.
I know I have various customers that will bring their own oil and materials, bring me their Rotella or Amazon or whatever. And those guys that have come back 5,000, oil life, come back and back, comparing them to the other trucks, the work trucks, the tow trucks, the ambulances. I was just doing an oil change on one yesterday. Those vehicles, their oil, black. I mean, coal black. These other trucks aren't as black. They're more like a brownish, if I get the oil on the oil filter, it's black. This oil is like a more brownish kind of clearer color. So that tells me one, I don't know if this is going to be the difference of oil, but obviously these other trucks are getting worked, and the heat cycling that the oil is doing. Ford Boss was talking about this in one of his oil videos. When you take the oil and all these detergents and additives, and you take the oil and you heat it up and let it cool down, and this is happening. How many times has this scenario happened in the life of the oil change interval? And you got guys 10,000 interval, and he comes in and you look at the sticker and you're like, you're doing the math, and he's over the sticker by a lot, and you're looking at the this dude's 15,000 miles overdue for oil change.
yeah.
Ooh, and that's how all this happens. So
I mean, just
run any flavor, just at least put some oil in it, for crying out loud.
if you take brand
It doesn't
new-
matter if it's used, new, it doesn't matter. It's gotta have something in it.
Somebody told me salted butter works. He left a comment joking on one of my videos. He's like, "Oh, you salted butter as long as something's in there." I was like,
a lot of people think you can go by color with oil, and to an extent, like Aaron was saying, you can actually tell like how much it's been used, but color alone is not a good factor in figuring out. You have to be able to decipher, like Aaron was saying. You can see a work vehicle versus something that somebody's just regular daily driver, and they don't use it to work.
Personal truck. Yep.
I can take oil and I could take it out to my hot plate, which is a $600 hot plate that I have. That's a controlled hot plate. And I can take that oil and I could dump it in a glass beaker, and I could set it at like 240 degrees Fahrenheit. And I'll leave it there for 15, 20 minutes and come back. That oil has already started to turn brown and black. Literally, that's how long it takes. And that's even if I run it at like an operating characteristic when it's 215 degrees, 210, 220 degrees, it almost automatically starts turning colors. So a lot of people think that just color alone is not an important factor. What me or is an important factor. Once it starts to turn dark, it means it's no good. No, that's not true.
Mine's
That-
black as soon as I start the truck.
It's
Right.
doing
No,
its job. It's also suspending the contaminants, so it's doing its job. So
Correct.
Yeah, if it came out clean after you drove it a whole bunch, it wouldn't be doing anything.
Right.
Bobby D has a good question. He says, how many of you guys have heard the typewriter style tick after an oil change? That's something that's very popular. My truck
all
does
the
it.
time.
I'm sure the ambulances,
Just about every
yeah.
6, 7, and 5 liter will do it.
it's
Yep.
something that's normal and it will just go away as the, will diminish, as the oil change interval goes on.
That
So
I've
this,
seen.
this happens right after an oil change.
Yes.
Yep.
Only time I noticed that was when I did the T6.
It happens. I almost every single Super Duty I've serviced, it does it. Does
Yeah.
it with no matter if it's T6 or Ford or whatever it is. And I seen one guy that was concerned about it, and he is real small channel. I think 600 followers or something like that on his channel. But he was like, "Hey guys, look, I figured out how to get rid of that tick." But it was him putting his vehicle in flood mode by taking the connector off by the battery and jumping the two pins together and cranking the engine over without fuel being delivered. And he's just cranking it and cranking it and cranking it and cranking it. And he did it for like, I don't know, 10, 15 seconds. And then he stopped, hooked the connector back up, got back in the vehicle and then started it up. And he was like, no tick. So he said, now every time I change my oil, I flood mode this way. And then I get in the truck and I start it and I don't have that tick from the 6.7 anymore. But that was him being real weird about it. They all do it. It doesn't cause any issues or anything like that. But this particular guy did not like it. So he actually was putting the vehicle in his own version of flood mode before he started it. And that's how he got it to go away.
Interesting.
We had one
I'm-
gap Barto go after looking for it and he didn't find nothing. So
I know DS is gonna have to start worrying about this because if you're looking at his background right now, he's got a brand new 23 450 and it's still at the dealer. I think it's getting a bumper repaired or he's doing something, but this is another tool he's going to be using. It's going to be replacing hopefully replacing his 2020 that got cranked. But him with the 6.7, he's got the new 7.3 gasser, both got 10-speed trans. The 6.2 that he has was 6-speed, or he still has 6-speed. And it's getting time, Michigan winters, salt belt, gonna start needing exhaust manifolds, trans lines, needs brakes, time to do a little upgrade. Sorry, folks. Yeah.
You okay in there? Like, wake up.
We'll see if we can get the deal done. I'm trading in this truck. It's got a lot of stuff wrong with it. They got me an offer. We'll see if they take it. I don't know.
No, we'll see. Moving right along to the middle child, Brady, the Eric, the I do cars guy. The not debacle, but the experience that he is having with a teardown of a power stroke.
Yes, that's that I normally don't spill the beans before
Uh-oh.
So going back to DS, we're gonna be hopefully making the deal because he's got very bad seller's remorse getting rid of that 450. And if you guys get rid of your cars, of your trucks, you turn them in the lease, and you still have your Ford Pass hooked up, do you forget and like can still unlock your truck or car like after the fact?
I never really thought about that.
I wonder how many people have like, oh man, oh shoot, it's still hooked up to my other truck. You're starting your truck. Some dude's got it in some other state. It was wholesaled somewhere else.
I did that at the dealer with a Taurus. I had to put her in my garage so I could verify that it would connect and everything like that. And I just left it and I forgot. I got home that night. I was like, oh, that's
Oh,
not my car.
oh,
Yeah.
Well, just in case you want to look at it, check on it, see where it's at, make sure she's all right. Take a little peek and close it up.
I don't really care.
what are these things that are wrong on this particular truck that you're questioning?
What do you mean?
Well, is it got the front bumpers
There's
cracked, cranked,
there's
crushed?
two things.
And then
The
what else is a dilly?
front bumper has a little. You talking about the 450?
The one that's right behind you.
Oh yeah. So the front bumper's got two little dents that you can't see them really, and then in the back seat, the leather seat in the back has like a weird scuff on the back panel. So
Did that have Vista or no?
yeah,
Yeah, your last one had Vista. I forgot.
yeah. I didn't put a ton of features on it. I put that on there and the Pro Power,
But no carpet, right?
the carpet delete.
I want to see the Pro Power. I want to see it in action.
Well, they put a giant inverter in the back seat underneath the seat.
I want to see it on the engine. In fact, I didn't even
No, I didn't
think
I
about
didn't see
looking at
nothing on
that.
the engine. I didn't see nothing on the engine.
Well, it would be where the second generator would go, the dual generator. So you got the
Yeah.
primary one over on the driver's side, and the
Is
one that's
there-
like right in the middle would be the generator motor.
Have you seen a high output yet?
I have.
Did you see a generator?
I don't think that one I don't know. I don't know if actually
big-
forgot to look.
It's a big
Only thing-
24 volt where the secondary generator would be.
Oh, I didn't see that. I just saw two alternators and I saw what looked like a power inverter in the back seat.
Well, that
Yep.
second alternator would be it then.
The second alternator is 24 volt alternator.
Oh, okay. I didn't see. Remember, we were looking at a clutch and we were looking at all that stuff
Yeah.
online. I didn't see any of that. I just saw two alternators. And I saw what looked like, just by the size and everything, it looked about the size of a 2000 watt inverter.
What's this
Well,
airbag recall I read about for Super Duties? What? Sounds like your time is ending soon. Airbag recall Super Duties? I don't know. Is there one? Hell, you guys hear about some of this stuff before I do. And then ask me like, man, I ain't heard nothing. 21S49. Let me look this up. You got me.
That's
messed up.
old.
Oh,
21.
is it? Yeah,
21, that's old.
It's old.
I don't know what 21S49 is.
That was done in year 2021.
Let's see. I know there's a guy up here that had a question and I missed it.
You ever heard the somebody say, just dump diesel oil in it, it'll clean out the engine for you?
Mm-mm.
You never heard anybody say that?
Dump diesel oil?
Yeah, find some 1540 and it just dump some diesel oil in that, and it'll clean the engine out for you.
Hmm.
Me and Anthony, we've been talking more and more and really digging into like kind of like how this oil and stuff is made and looking at the different properties and stuff that it has. And I think one of the biggest misconceptions I was going to bring up earlier is a lot of people think that what oil does is oil gets in your engine and it's got like these little scrubbing bubble fingers that just attach to everything and it just magically cleans the inside of the engine. And that's not how it works. It doesn't work that way. Calcium and magnesium that you find in diesel oil is a very high amount. But just because that calcium and magnesium is in there doesn't mean that it's actually going to clean the inside of the engine. That's not how these things operate. If you actually read up on enough articles and stuff and go to AMSOIL's website, they're a great source of actual information that explain these things. And you can actually see verbatim, it stops things from getting worse moving forward. But those little scrubbing bubble fingers that these calcium and magnesium molecules have that just magically grow once they get inside your engine and start attaching to things and ripping off the carbon and the discoloration, the sludge and stuff like that, it doesn't actually happen. That's an old wives' tale. And a lot of people believe that stuff's true. That, oh, just grab some diesel oil and dump it in and it'll clean it out. That is
I've
that
heard
old
that with diesel fuel.
huh?
I've heard that. I've heard of guys doing that with diesel fuel for like a gas engine.
Diesel fuel is it's a cutter. Kerosene is a cutter. If you ran it long enough, sure, it would do some cleaning, but it's not like if you dump it in there right this second, 20 minutes from now, you're going to see this magically fresh, clean engine inside. It's not caustic enough. It doesn't perform well enough to get the immediate result that most people are looking for. Back in the day, guys used to take conventional oils and they would add some kerosene or some diesel to it, and they'd run it like an hour or a half hour, or they'd run it for like the week before and they would see some result in cleaning it out. But with today's oils and how today's engines and stuff are made, it doesn't work that way. And it's not really a smart idea to do that anyway, with the amount of fuel dilution and stuff that we have and the amount of blow by and how the low tolerance piston rings and all this other stuff is low friction setups are. It's not really a good idea to do that, and it doesn't work to the extent that you still hear those old wives' tales, old timers out there that are still touting that stuff.
Mhm.
Dump some of this in there, dump some trans fluid in there.
Yeah,
It'll
yep.
do this miracle stuff, and it'll just clean the inside of the engine out crystal clean. It doesn't work. That NV 3500 I had that was completely sludged up, I went like on a 3.5 hour live stream.
Oh,
And
yeah, I remember that.
I went through
Oh,
all
yeah.
and I dumped straight trans fluid in that engine. It didn't barely do anything. It didn't touch it. I dumped diesel and motor flush in there, two giant like the big bottles from like Walmart that you find, and when you read the ingredients, it's straight kerosene and diesel with some dye, and it didn't really touch it. It made some maybe minor discoloration, but none of these things actually worked when you dumped them in the engine and you were looking for very quick results. And the only thing that works is you've got to have an actual cleaner that is caustic, a BG EPR, or like some people swear by the CR 505 stuff. I don't know if that stuff actually works. I bought a bottle and I have it on top of my box, and I'm going to be trying it out here soon so I can give my thoughts on it. But if you're looking for something to clean the inside of an engine out, like really good, really fast right now, and you got to be very careful, it's industrial products like BG that are made for professionals like us. The consumer can go on eBay and find it now, and they can go on Amazon and find it now, but you're not supposed to be able to find that stuff online because it's to be supplied to shops. So
Let's say you get the right stuff, the BG, or you get it done somewhere. Does that make the engine run better at all? Does it clean the piston rings up at all, or what's the reason?
It can free up oil control rings. It can clean out valleys and stuff that are starting to slowly scale up and restrict oil flow to certain internal components that it's critical that they get flow to a certain area. And then the next question would be, well, we run turbo diesels. Is that stuff safe to put in engines with turbos? Because we were always told that that's not a great idea because you can dislodge things and end up in the turbo. Well, it's like this. You're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. If you keep going and you don't maintain your vehicle enough and you keep letting it build up and you keep letting it sludge up and varnish up, no matter what you do at the end of the day, there's a component that's going to fail. So either you run something that's very slow acting like a Seafoam or a Marvel Mystery Oil, and you hope that these things will clean very, very slow, that it's safe for the turbo applications and setup. That's why Marvel came out with the synthetic formula. So the turbo diesel guys can then run it in their trucks. The performance cars can run it in their performance cars. At the end of the day, I've run that BG EPR and turbo engines over and over and over again, and EcoBoost and diesels and all that. Never had a single problem. Never had a single turbo failure or blowout. And I've saved people a lot of money doing it. There's a lot of
No.
myths out there.
No, Ford Boss is talking about cleaners. I just actually recently got an email from a viewer. He says he's got a 2015 356.7 and he titles it Preventative EGR Cooler Maintenance. So he's a big fan, references the channels, videos, loves it. Recently purchased a used 15 350 with 128K. A reputable Ford dealership has meticulously maintained the truck, and I have all the service records from the day it arrived on the lot. For the record, it was my father's truck and kept extremely well. Brief details about the truck. It has been used from day one as the primary tow vehicle for my parents' fifth wheel. My father has never had any issues with the engine or EGR system, and has every possible service record that's been completed. I plan on keeping the truck long term and am seeking advice on whether I should do a preventative maintenance on the EGR system, i.e. remove it while it's functional, clean it all up and reassemble it, or does he just leave it? In my ownership, the truck will be used to tow our 22-foot boat and a 34-foot trailer around from May to October. Over the wintertime, it won't be used. I really appreciate it and enjoy your videos on the channel. Wants feedback on EGR cooler maintenance. There's not really any
Ford says
how-
don't.
yeah, like cleaners. Ford doesn't approve any cleaners. I don't know if I would really want to do that, burning that stuff through the 6.7, because as soon as it hits the DPF,
That's
we
the
have
problem.
a potential for the DPF overheating, and if it overheats, it's going to crack, and then you're going to be blowing smoke out the tailpipe, and check engine light's going to be coming on, and it's just going to be a lot to fix something. So what I'm going to do to answer him is probably with 128,000, I mean, nothing he's going to do now is going to take all that away. But some of the videos I would reference him would be that truck that I had did story time in front of, where I came back a bunch of times and I failed to see the intake restriction behind the throttle body. That's a big coking spot. That's all that carbon and sooty. Man, I need to put it on. Yes, that was awesome. And get him on some good fuel additives to make sure all of these unburned hydrocarbons are being burned and aren't going to be collecting in these areas. So could take the throttle body off maybe and just at least look in there and see, you know, if it's all cruddy up. And sometimes they're not. It just depends. A lot of guys that idle, it's going to be all tacky, gooey, touch it, just smear everywhere. The guys that drive their trucks, a lot of times I'll see it just dry, sooty, clear, but not all, you know, scaled up like Ford Boss was saying, just all heavily, just nasty. So
I've seen video of you taking that thing apart and cleaning it.
yeah. And that was it.
You sh-
That was it.
You
Ask
usually
him.
get a throttle
Ask him
code
how he
too.
found it. Ask him how he found
By
it.
rereading the PCD 90 times and skipping over step 2, it says check for intake restrictions. Yep, the air filter's clean. No.
Wrong intake.
Yeah.
intake.
Well, like I said, it was a learning experience, and it's something I have never forgotten. And when we talk about these things with EGR, it's something I want to tell you guys to check the little cathedral port behind the throttle body. If you cannot stick your finger in there, you'll see what I'm saying. If you can't feel your finger go into a little port, then good chance that thing's probably plugged up and she's not breathing correctly.
Got that short
Ray
of that one that I took off.
Is the best mechanic I ever sent my stuff to. Woo, woo.
You had a question back there on a catalyst code. I don't know if
Oh,
you saw
did I? No, I
Yeah.
didn't. Let me go back up. Oh, Wilbert, thank you, buddy. Can a 420 code on a caddy be fixed without replacement? Probably not. 420 is going to be a generic code between all manufacturers, and it's going to pretty much mean the same. And we've talked about this before. The diesels have the same kind of code. That converter is chemically not converting everything from the harmful byproducts of combustion to friendly atmosphere stuff coming out the tailpipe. So check engine lights can continue beyond if you do not fix it. If you don't want to get a OEM GM replacement, which I'm going to assume is going to be maybe a Y pipe, whether it's going to be one, it's probably going to be really expensive. So you probably could go to like an exhaust shop and just get a aftermarket cat, just a high flow cat or something. And
Is it a
that-
GM product?
Yeah.
The 5.3. You can get them at O'Reilly's. It comes with both of them in the white pipe. It's like, I think it was like $189 or something.
I
like
don't
that.
know. He just says a cat.
We don't know what kind of caddy is. It could be
Yeah.
like it could be a something that's not a truck.
Oh, true.
Maybe it's a Cadillac Catera.
Just throw it away. Sorry.
Maybe
Cut it off.
I thought that, and I didn't realize I said that out loud until I saw your reaction.
maybe it's a Cadillac Eldorado.
1972 model.
Yeah,
Bill Dubrani.
with an OBD2 converted one.
Uh, I've been using the MagnaFlow the aftermarket MagnaFlow cats lately,
Yeah.
and I've had 100% success with them so far because they make a lot of OE style where the bungs are in the same spot. And I probably say in the last 2 months, I've replaced about 5 for the 420 code, 430 code, and the MagnaFlows have been working really well.
Yeah.
No cat codes, not, no lean codes or anything.
No, the last one was like a 2001 Volvo XC70 something all-wheel drive 5-cylinder, and the cat was done in it, and I was surprised that they had one that was almost set up like identical to OE. Just split the pipe, put the new one in, boop, boop, new sensor in it, done. Drove it around for about 20 miles, cleared the 420 code, sent the lady for the emissions test, and she was like, "Oh my God, it was going to be like over $1,000 for the OE one." And I was like, I know. Try to get a Y pipe for a freaking Transit and see what happens. Oh my God.
Oh,
I just had a 23 F750 7.3 come in, big box truck. Guy needs a fuel cap. And what did I do? Some maintenance. And had to come back for the fuel cap. But between ordering the fuel cap and yesterday, some monkey crawled underneath it and cut his cat off. Some loser
That happens.
cut his cat off.
Yeah.
Somebody
So
had
now
that itch, man. Somebody had that dang. They had that itch, and they were trying to get that quick fix.
That's it. I see it all the time.
Oh yeah.
it's bad. I feel bad for the guys who own these small companies. You know, let's just say like a small landscaping company, and all they have is 8 trucks, and they hit all 8 trucks, diesel and gas, and you know,
Yep.
these poor people got to make an insurance claim, and now these parts are on
Sometimes it gets
back
totaled.
order.
Sometimes it totals those trucks out because you
Oh
can't get it.
man,
I hope
That's,
cars fall on those people.
Yeah, every time I see one of
For
those
real.
videos where somebody gets pinched by one of those cars, I just
that's what you get.
smile a little bit. It's just the way life works sometimes.
That's what
the
you
F
get.
around and find out chart.
That's exactly it. That's exactly
The
what
what?
it is.
The F around and find out chart.
Yeah,
I
FAFO.
like that. I like
The
that.
more you F around, the more you find out.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's actual science to this. It's serious.
Yeah, there's 2 different axes on this chart, so it's real. There's
Eric, I talked to a guy today, and I was like, "Look, the customer's going to just hand over this It's like 01 CLK 55 AMG because it's been left outside for years with the windows open and the sunroof open and this interior is destroyed in this thing, and it's worth nothing anymore. And the guy was like, "Does it have the cats on it?" It's the guy at the salvage yard. I was like, he's gonna turn it over to us and just let us get rid of it. And he was like, "Does it have the cats on it?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, it does." And he was like, "Oh, because I was gonna say if it doesn't, I don't want it." And
Yeah.
and I was like, I didn't know the salvage yards were like that. That
Oh
if it's-
yeah,
That they
Okay.
wouldn't take the vehicle?
yeah.
They-
A lot. So right now, scrap is like 220 a ton, and if they will
Wow.
pay you scrap weight if there's no cats on a car.
yeah.
Why?
I see. I don't buy cheap stuff, so I don't. That doesn't really phase me. Like cats are a really small part of my business, but there's a lot of other yards that's like their entire profit is the converter.
Yeah.
How much are these converters worth?
What kind of car? I can price. I got an app. You got to tell me what it's
Let's say a
off.
Ford truck. Let's say like a Ford F.
Yeah, look up a 6.8, a 6.8,
A torpedo. Those are
no,
called-
just a
those
gas job.
Yeah, those are the 6.8s are called torpedoes. Depending if it's a 2-valve, it's called a torpedo. And then I can't remember what the newer ones are called. So torpedoes, if it's a 2-valve 6.8, those cats in their heyday, because converters are down about 50% right now.
Oh,
In
are
their
they
hey-
really?
Yeah, in their heyday, that was a $1,600 to $1,800 cat, depending on the code.
For real?
Yeah.
Oh,
Like
crap.
low end, a $700 or $800 one was like the federal emissions, and a Cali emissions one was the
Wow, I didn't know
16 to
there was that
1800.
much. What
mean,
about the diesel torpedoes? If somebody stole that, how much are those things?
So diesel cats aren't worth as there's very few of them that are worth a lot of money. Most of them are $300 to $500 for a full set.
Oh, wow. Wow.
So
I can't believe that. I mean, I've never had to take one to a scrapyard. They've all had to turn back in for core and warranty. So,
Aaron, they went from
Well, if you get-
at the dealership whenever customers would be like, "Hey, just get rid of this stuff for me," like you're doing an exhaust system or aftermarket exhaust system with the high flow cats and stuff. The customers wouldn't want to take the cats with them, so I'd save them. I'd put them under my workbench, and there'd be a guy that would come in with a license, and he had like a professional ID and a big giant work truck out back with like a company logo and stuff on the side. Like these were certified guys that would come around looking for like cats. That's all they would do is they would go to all the different dealerships and shops and stuff in the nice area that we worked in. And he'd come in, and back in the day, he used to be like, "I give you $50 a cat." Well, then fast forward through COVID and everything, here, like right before I left the dealership, they were coming in and offering like $175, $200 a cat. And I was like,
that's nothing. That's nothing.
wow.
I just sold half of a Gaylord box. You know what a Gaylord looks like? One of those 4x4x4 like triple wall, quadruple wall Gaylord boxes. It's just cardboard.
yeah,
And I had one halfway filled up, and it was about 12 grand.
wow.
I mean, in their heyday, like when I say their heyday, so like early 22, up to like May of 22, everything was crazy. The reason everything was so crazy, actually 21 was the best. The reason everything went so high is so for a long time, rhodium was the best material for it was, I wouldn't call it the cheapest, but it was what most manufacturers were using when they built these converters, because there's three precious metals. There's palladium, platinum, and rhodium. So rhodium went crazy because all of the rhodium mines shut down because of COVID in South Africa and Ukraine. They all shut down, and manufacturers still trying to pump out cars. So the prices went up and up and up. There was a point in time where rhodium was like $3,500 an ounce, and they got up to like over $22,000 or $23,000 an ounce. And that's why cats went
Wow.
crazy. Now, what that also did is because rhodium got so expensive, all the OEs in 22 and 23 started switching more to palladium and platinum because those were much more stable price wise, still expensive.
Mm.
So when, fast forward to 5 to 10 years, some of these 22s, 23s, 24s are going to the salvage yard, they're getting wrecked. Those cats are not going to have the rhodium value. So if rhodium is really strong and platinum and palladium are weak, those cats are not going to be valuable. So like when the market moves, if rhodium goes up, platinum and palladium stay the same. The cats that have rhodium in there will fluctuate with the rhodium price. So they use these companies use an XRF scanner, which basically tells them how much of what material is in each converter, and that's how they know there's codes on all these converters. And so for
Oh,
all you guys, if you guys ever need to know what any of that stuff is worth, you guys have my number. I'm happy to help you. So you don't make sure you're not getting screwed on something.
like a part number or serial number or something?
There's
Or
a
what?
code that is not in any system except for owned by the scrap companies, the scrap processors. So like
Oh,
it's like a Ford internal code or a GM internal code. And sometimes it's a
Huh.
part number, and when you Google the part number, nothing comes up from it. So it depends on the scenario, but most of the
kidding.
numbers on cats are just the actual canister and what's inside of it. So I have an app that I can look up what everything market price is.
No kidding.
So if you guys ever got cats off of something, I can help you at least price that stuff so you know you're not getting ripped off.
Well, coffee for Mr. DS. He is
Fighting.
he's fighting. What did they say they're gonna do? Call me the bad guy. That's DS. We're gonna hang it up. We're gonna hang it up. Stay tuned for Friday. Friday, I have a masterpiece for you all. Lighting concerns, body control modules. Man, look what is going on. Scrump diddlyumptious. I like electrical, but sometimes they tick me off. But we conquered. I will see you guys all next time. Everybody on the show, everybody in my quadrants. Thank you. Everybody watching. Thank you. And thank you to the wife unit for tripping me up. Okay, we'll see you guys.